right, good morning, party people. My dog is snoring, so if you hear some horrible noise, that is her. Okay, so today we are in the New Testament, also known as Apple, to avoid TikTok censorship. So today, our daily reading, for those of you following along, we did Luke chapters 23 and 24. So we finished out the Gospel of Luke. 1 Corinthians chapters 13, 14, Revelations 13, 14, Psalms 110 through 115, and then Proverbs 28. Okay, so that's our daily reading for the day. So today we are back in Luke, and we had ended last time. I think I'm only going to have time to get through one chapter, so this is the end of Luke, so you definitely don't want to miss it. So go through chapter 24, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to do 2 videos just to cover 23. So in 23 and 22, last time we covered Luke, we saw that Jesus was brought in, and he was falsely accused by the religious leaders at the time. They did a bunch of things that were illegal in bringing the accusations. There were multiple things. You can look into that, but how they did it was illegal. They brought him into someone's house. They did it on a day that they were not supposed to do it on, and then he had no representation. So there was quite a few things that true process was not done correctly, right? So, and like I always say, you see this throughout the Bible, and God hates that. I mean, when there is things that are being done unjustly or not that are the law is being corrupted, God cannot stand that. And so here you see God himself being subjected to that. And my hair is driving me crazy. Okay, so here we see in chapter 23, we're going to be introduced to Pilate. Now, there's a lot of stuff going on here that you're not going to get right out of the Bible. So it's important to, for those of you that are interested in understanding completely what's going on here, you can get some historical books on Pilate in Rome during this time. As we're introduced to Pilate, what you're not seeing what's alluded to, but you're not seeing in depth here, is what's going on with Pilate and his relationship with the Jewish people, right? So again, as I mentioned before, Israel is under Rome's guardianship, basically. They're under occupation. The emperor of Rome places people throughout the territories to rule in his name. And here in Israel, you see Pilate had been placed here through a benefactor, is what they call them. And so somehow the person that was influential in Rome was able to place Pilate here. And so Pilate owes his allegiance to this person, right? And anyone associated with that person is going to either rise or fall with that person's political politicalness, right? I'm so tired. It's so early. So as Pilate's benefactor was rising in Rome, so was Pilate's influence, right? He could follow those coattails. But what you see here is that Pilate's benefactor in Rome came under some kind of had some problems. And so it sounds like Titus, who was the emperor at that time, was going through and executing people that were associated with Pilate's benefactor. So this increased Pilate's concern, wariness. He was trying, he was walking a fine line, and he was trying to keep the peace here in Israel, but at the same time, he was very worried about what was going on with his benefactor. And so he knew he was under scrutiny through Rome as well. If things were not going well in Israel, he could be removed, and he could suffer the fate of some of the other people that were associated with his benefactor. So that's a whole nother history, but that's playing a part here in what you're seeing happen. So Pilate was known as being very stubborn, very just not someone that was easily worked with. And so so there's some other things that are going to come up here as well. Okay, so there were some fights he had with the Israel leadership, with the priests and the locals. He had put down different riots, especially with the Galileans. So when you see the Galileans mentioned here, this is a way for the political class in Israel, the Jewish priests, the Levites, and all those people, to try and manipulate him, because he had been involved in an uprising involving the Galileans, and there had been a lot of bloodshed, and there were a lot of it had turned out bad for Pilate, right? So you see a lot of manipulation here going on, a lot of political intrigue that is not super clear in the New Testament. Okay, so here we have it. So chapter 23. So then the whole multitude of them arose and led him to Pilate. So now this is after they had taken him to the Jewish priest's house. They had questioned him, and then he had declared that he will, it says at the very end of 22, Jesus says, if I tell you, you will by no means believe. This is an answer to their questioning. And if I also ask you, you will by no means answer me or let me go. Hereafter, the Son of Man will sit on the right hand of the power of God. So that's where they decided, all right, that's it. We're gonna kill him. He's claiming to be God. So this is chapter 23. Then the whole multitude of them arose and led him to Pilate. So now they're leading him to the political leader, right? And they began to accuse Jesus, saying, we found this fellow perverting the nation and forbidding to pay taxes to Caesar, and saying that he himself is Christ a king. So they're making three accusations there, and they're trying to appeal to him, to Pilate, politically, right? Because Pilate's not going to listen to any kind of religious claims. He's not interested if they come to him and say he's claiming to be God, or he's, anything like that. Because Pilate's, they do their own religious stuff. Pilate is in charge of of keeping the peace, right? Then Pilate asked Jesus, saying, are you the king of the Jews? Because this is what they're claiming, right? And that could be a political thing. That could be, trying to usurp the role of the emperor. So Pilate, and he answered him and said, it is as you say. So Pilate said to the chief priests in the crowd, I find no fault in this man. Now what you're missing here, so when Pilate says to the chief priests in the crowd, I find no fault in this man, what you're missing is it says, Pilate had taken Jesus in and done a private meeting with Jesus and had questioned him on his own. The chief priests and the others that are accusing him of things are outside. And according to some of the things I read, Jesus had not even orally heard them making those accusations against him. That when he was brought in before Pilate, it was a private meeting. And so this did not sit well with the Jewish leaders either. They wanted, everything to be done quickly. They wanted to manipulate Pilate. They wanted to get Jesus killed and to do it quickly. So that's why they were focusing on that one claim in particular. And so when he spoke to Pilate privately, you see in other Gospels exactly what he says to Pilate. He says, my kingdom is not of this world. So Pilate knew that they were handing him over out of envy. He knew that there was something more going on here and that they were trying to manipulate him into killing him. And so that's why, but see, Pilate at the same time, he's Roman. And so they have the whole Roman law thing. There was very strict guidelines on what they had to do and the things that they had to follow, especially to put someone to death. And so it did not meet this criteria. And so he's saying, so Pilate said to the chief priest in the crowd, I find no fault in this man. Okay, so he found him innocent. But they were the more fierce, saying, he stirs up the people, teaching throughout all Judea, beginning from Galilee to this place. Okay, so when their first attempt didn't work, then they try to stir everybody up and say, he's stirring everyone up, even Galilee. Okay, so this is going back to his issue with Galilee, right? The rebellion that took place and the people that he was involved in, that there was, murders and all of this stuff, and his own Roman guards overdid it, right, in response. And so that's what they're trying to bring to remembrance here, and to try and get him to move now by saying Galilee. So then verse 6 says, when Pilate heard of Galilee, he asked the man if he were a Galilean. He asked Jesus if he were a Galilean. And as soon as he knew that he belonged to Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him to Herod, who was also in Jerusalem at that time. Okay, so now I'm running out of time, so I'm going to have to do a second video. But now he's sending him to Herod. Now remember who Herod is. Herod is not well liked among the people, even though he's doing a lot of great things for the temple. But Herod killed John the Baptist, right? And who is related to Jesus, and he's living in sin, and he's just, he's not well regarded. And I think Jesus only mentions him one other time. He makes a comment about him. And so he's sending him to Herod. So there's another interesting thing about this. The language that is used here is using legal terms, and it's actually referring Jesus to a higher court. Okay, so we're going to go to a second video, okay? So hold tight. Read your Bible. Jesus is coming. Hold tight for number 2.